Hello everyone, welcome to YK Reviews, and for today's video, as you saw in the thumbnail, as we see in the title, this is going to be talking about DC and Adult Swim animated show My Adventures with Superman, and obviously as you saw in the thumbnail, called it a masterpiece, and I really think it delivers with that. So here we're just going to be breaking down everything with the show, reviewing it. There's going to be non-spoiler parts and then spoiler parts. I'll let you know when the spoiler parts commence, but without further ado, let's just get straight into it here. Now, I will be putting timestamps in the description down below for each aspect that we're going to be discussing for each topic in terms of the show itself, like Clark and Lois's relationship, the villains, the episodes, the finale, season 2's future and its theories. So timestamps will be in the description down below. And you also may notice, for those of you that are returning to the channel, different kind of setup. I just posted a shorts about the unboxing for all of this as we're getting into the spooky season, October coming up, with loads of horror reviews coming out in a couple of weeks. Decided to do a little bit of an upgrade. I mentioned in the shorts that this is just the first aspect of it, a Ghostface, Michael Myers, you've got the Jason Voorhees mug, and also there's a TMNT Last Ronin comic book over there, which I'm so excited to read. I know it's not technically horror related, but it's got that darker tone to it, so I'm really pumped for that one. But I will be adding more over the coming weeks, just because with Spirit Halloween I was not expecting it to be so pricey, so we will be adding it over the next couple of weeks. More horror vibes. Let me know in the comment section down below if there's anything in particular I should be getting, if there's a Spirit Halloween that you visited and that you think would look good in this set. Obviously I've got very limited space, but let me know in the comment section down below for that. And also, if you do like this type of content and you like these weekly entertainment news videos that I just posted a couple of days ago, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on those. Always try to keep up with these weekly entertainment news videos. Going to be posting more reviews when it comes to movies and shows, so definitely subscribe so that you don't miss out on that. Okay, so with this show, the DC animated show, obviously when it comes to like DC side of things, it's a huge mess when it comes to live action stuff, but with DC, the animated stuff, there are some really great animated stuff when it comes to like DC side of things. You got the Batman animated series, the Justice League animated show, so many great movies when it comes to animation DC side of things here. Now with this one, definitely another one in the bag. This one, My Adventures with Superman, takes on Clark Kent as a younger version of Superman, so when he first discovers his power, so he's still brand new to everything. And the take with this when it comes to like Clark Kent and Superman, I really love this version of Superman, this Clark Kent, where he's discovering his powers throughout the show. You see him learning to adapt, taking on villains that are like brand new to him, where he's never faced this type of conflict before. So they do such a brilliant take with it. And Jackquaid, who voices Superman, who does a fantastic job in this show, really brings out that personality of Clark Kent. And with Superman himself, what I really liked is the naivety when it comes to Superman himself. Like I said, he's not been in this type of situation before. He's also learning about Krypton. He discovers a little bit in terms of the finale, and also throughout the show a little bit about his people, his planet, where he came from. So you sort of get like little hints, little droplets of that, which I really enjoyed. And also when it comes to saving people, there's this one episode, and this is not going to be too spoilerish, but it's one episode where he learns about his super hearing, and it's just a brilliant depiction of how if you have super hearing, you're just hearing everything, like left, right, center, people's conversation, people's thoughts, and it's just the way it was written was just done so perfectly. So I really enjoyed this take on Superman. It's done so well, and it's pretty much like a breath of fresh air, because recently you've got like the older versions. I know James Gunn is looking to do a different version of Superman, a more younger version. You've had a lot of like origin stories, so this technically isn't an origin story when it comes to Superman. You get like a brief little scene of him when he was younger, and then it focuses on like him as a young adult and his journey in terms of becoming Superman himself. So it's not an origin story, but it's just the way it was done. I really loved what they did with it. Every single episode going on this adventure with Superman, it was just a brilliant take. And then you introduce the dynamic of Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane, and I think the three of them, their chemistry, them working as interns in the Daily Planet, them going on these different adventures, especially towards like the beginning part of the show. Now, this is going to be diving into a bit of spoiler territory throughout the show because of like what happens in the episode. So minor spoilers. So if you don't want to get spoiled in terms of like what happened in the show, maybe skip to the next chapter of this part. But When it comes to Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, I really like the dynamic between them. You come to find out that Jimmy Olsen and Clark Kent are roommates. You get the introduction of Lois Lane, and there's three of them as the triangle. I think worked really well, the way they're bouncing off each other. Obviously, in the earlier part of the show, Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane don't know that Clark Kent is Superman, so they're going on this adventure of putting themselves in danger, trying to get an interview with Superman. You have Jimmy Olsen, who kind of is put on a back burner a little bit, but like not too heavily, but he's still put on a back burner while they're focusing on Lois Lane and Clark Kent, because as soon as Lois Lane discovers that Clark Kent is Superman, you kind of had this generic thing, which I'm not a huge fan of when it comes to like comic book movies or shows, like the love interest or like the family member or the friend finds out that the person is a superhero and the person didn't tell them, and then they get really upset about it. I hate that trope because the mindset and the thought process is just really dumb when it comes to that. Like, you're angry at them for a long time just because they didn't tell you about their secret identity, not focusing or not fully thinking about the consequences of knowing that, or not even thinking about why they did that. I just really hate that trope. So they do bring that trope in when it comes to Lois Lane and her being angry with Clark Kent. However, they don't hang on to that. Like, it doesn't become like a huge plot point throughout the rest of the show. It's done in the one episode, and then the very next episode it sort of ties everything together well, and I just think that for me is the best way to do it. If you are going to go with that trope, that is the best way to handle it. So I'm really appreciative when it comes to that. And obviously the Lois Lane Clark Kent chemistry and them building into that relationship, I thought was done really well. You just really want to root for them. Now when it comes to like Lois Lane the character, I think she was done really well, written really well. She was voiced by Alice Lee, and I'll be honest, I haven't seen much of her like previous work, but she does a really fantastic job when it comes to that. Especially there's one particular episode called Kiss Kiss Fall in the Portal. I believe it's episode 7, when you've got Mr. Mixie Pidlack, and I probably butchered that name, but you've got him, and then you've got the Council of Lois Lane, so it's sort of like a multiverse episode, and you just see her, how she's completely different to the other Lois Lanes. So that really elevates her character in itself, and especially the finale, the way she's able to protect Superman. It was just done so well when it comes to like her character. They didn't get that typical comic book trope of like the love interest, like I said, getting angry over revealing the identity, moping for a couple of days or weeks or whatever long it is, or trying to be like the damsel in distress. She played her part to a T, and I think that it was done pretty well. She really held her own throughout the show, throughout each episode, especially doing the whole reporter aspect of it, and that pays off towards the end, especially when it comes to like episode 9, when her and Jimmy Olsen rise up with the people, encouraging the people to help Superman by turning off all the electricity. That eventually leads to her and Jimmy and Clark becoming reporters, being promoted from interns to reporters. So her dynamic was done really well, especially the chemistry with Clark Kent. That romance really gelled well. And then you've got the third character with Jimmy Olsen, so he didn't really feel like a third wheel. Like I said, he was put on the back burner a little bit, but like not too heavily where you notice it a lot. But when he was in the show, when he was like front and center, he really shined. Him being behind Flamebird, and even just like towards the latter part of the finale, revealing that he's a millionaire now because he sold Flamebird to Perry in the Daily Planet, I just thought was a stroke of genius. But him also holding his own, so I just thought that was done really well. Now when it comes to the other aspect of the show, when it comes to like the villains and Task Force X, who was also revealed to be in the show, the villains themselves, I really enjoyed their writing and their aspects in terms of the show. My one criticism, because if you haven't seen the show, they have a lot of known villains from like Superman's history or DC's history. So if you are a big fan of DC, if you've read the comics, if you've seen any of the previous work, you'll be familiar with the villains. My only negative aspect with it, and it's part of the negative aspect of the show, is that it's a lot of like tech-based villains. So like these villains come into play. Amanda Waller and Lois Lane's father, the General, and Slade Wilson, they're the ones providing the tech to these villains. So it's more of like tech-heavy villains rather than like metahumans or villains that are like aliens, outside species, those kind of like villains. So you're not going to get any of those. It's more like these villain characters are getting the tech and then becoming powerful enough to like beat up Superman. That I just think was a bit of a negative aspect when it comes to the show. It kind of takes away from like the presence of the villains themselves. However, from the villains, I really liked what they did, especially in one episode when they're teaming up, taking on Superman. Superman, it was just done really, really well. Like every episode you get, or you're finding out who these villains are, a bit of their backstory, them taking on Superman, them getting recruited by Amanda Waller and becoming part of Task Force X. So for me, the big standouts are you've got like Rory, Heatwave, you've got Live Wire, you've got, like I mentioned, Slade Wilson in there, Dr. Ivo, who becomes a big threat in the show. But like I said, most of them have all got these tech-based outfits, costumes, weapons to help them take on Superman. But when they do, it just becomes such great watch. It really brings that presence to life. Really gives Superman a big challenge when they do take him on. So I really, really enjoyed that aspect. We come to find out why Amanda Waller and the General are working together, are trying to recruit these people to take on Superman because of the backstory when it comes to like their past. So I like that they explored that a little bit, and I'm hoping that they do more when it comes to season 2 for that. But I really enjoyed that aspect. And of course, the big reveal, obviously, if you know Superman, if you know Lois Lane, you know that the General was going to be her father. So for me, it wasn't a big reveal. But for those people that are brand new to this show, brand new to like Superman, that might be a bit of a shock to them, but for me it wasn't. But I like how they played that off. I like the writing for this when it comes to the General. You see a bit of conflict with him as well from the last couple of episodes. So I really liked what they did with that and what that ramification is going to do in terms of season 2. So there was a lot of questions being asked towards the end of the show that's going to be hopefully brought up in season 2. But I really like the writing for General Lane. I really like the writing for the villains. They're done so well, so you're going to enjoy the villains. But if you focus too much on like where their powers are coming from or how they became powerful enough to take on Superman, that might draw you out of the show. But for me, it's like a minor nitpick when it comes to the show overall. Now, when it comes to the episodes, there's 10 episodes altogether in the show, and I feel like what they did, spreading out everything, so you had the focus of like the main plot in most of the episodes, but the ones that like you take a back seat, you take a back burner, like the ones where Lois Lane comes to find out about Superman, where you've got Mr. Mxyzptlk, and the multiverse episode I think was done really, really well. It's not like a filler episode, but it does sort of bring the plot forward, but you get like a backseat from like the villains and all that kind of stuff, and you focus on like the relationships between Superman and Lois Lane, as I mentioned earlier. So those filler episodes, and I'm air quoting because I don't feel like they are filler episodes, those ones really focus heavily on like that aspect of Clark and Lois and even Jimmy Olsen too. So every episode is an enjoyable watch. The runtime is about 22 minutes or so, but honestly the time flies so fast. The pacing of each episode, the pacing of the show is done to an absolute T for me, and that's why again I call it a masterpiece, because you just don't want each episode to end and you just want the season to continue. So I really, really am a fan of every single episode. My big standouts for me was the first 2 episodes. It's a 2-parter episode. I liked how they again introduced Superman, again introduced Lois and Jimmy, and how Superman is balancing everything between him being Clark Kent and him being Superman, and taking on, trying to save Lois, trying to save Jimmy, taking on the villains. So the opening of the show, you're like drawn into it. And then of course the episode 9, when it comes to Dr. Ivo taking on Superman, how the city is able to combine together, work together, which a couple of flaws if you think about it when it comes to like the logistic of it. Having the whole city turn off the electricity, you've got people have probably taken showers, you've got people probably in the middle of cooking dinner. So that's just like one thing that came to my mind when that was taking place. However, I just like that chemistry. Like you see the impact that Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen have when they're trying to help out Superman, and like how powerful they are to help Superman. That's why I say they're not like those typical comic book tropes of like damsel in distress or just the annoying character that just gets in the way, puts themselves in danger. They really do make an impact when it comes to Superman's fight sequence. So I really enjoyed episode 9 there. But of course the finale was just so fantastic. I really loved what they did with the finale. Again, like you've got the reveal of General Lane being Lois Lane's dad. That's when Clark Kent finds out about that. You've got Clark Kent's parents, which I wish that we could have seen more of them in the season, but when they do come to screen you can really feel their presence. Such a heartwarming family, such a heartwarming couple, especially Martha of course. But the big epic finale, the big fight sequence, Superman, how he's able to save everybody. He comes to find out that the person that's been showing up in his memories is actually his father, which obviously we put together very quickly. And so you've got General Lane, you've got Lois Lane, you've got Jimmy Olsen taking on these robots. Superman of course is able to save the day thanks to his father, and so the whole finale just really tied together so perfectly, worked really well. And then of course we've got the future, so we're talking about now the future of this show. They confirmed that season 2 is happening. One of the co-producers actually did an interview fairly recently talking about season 2. So they discussed here, and this is coming from the direct and coming from the YouTube channel Superman homepage where they did the interview. So they asked, we've got the finale airing this week. Do we know when season 2 is going to premiere? Which she responds to, so it's not announced yet, and there's nothing I can say until it's announced. So I was gonna say the season premiere is coming out, so stay tuned for season 2. We've got the wonderful task of being able to make them both around the same time, and I'm very excited for this. There's so much stuff in season 2 that I think is gonna blow people's mind, so yeah, just stay tuned, keep watching. And we saw as well, again, spoiler warning, we saw at the end of the episode, at the end of the show, you've got Brainiac and what is presumed to be General Zod, because he mentioned the word Neil. That really flagged General Zod for me. So it looks like they're going to be coming to Earth because of what took place in the finale with Superman and the robots. And so you're having Brainiac and General Zod working together, who are most likely trying to take over Earth. So I'm really, really excited for this. I cannot wait to see what they're going to be doing with this. This show can only get better and better now that you've got Superman, his discovery journey of gaining his powers, working with his powers, finding out about like his laser eyes, his super hearing and his flying and all that kind of stuff. Now that he's more established and has taken on various types of villains, now he's more established. So you're going to get him taking on Brainiac and General Zod. So this has the potential to be a fantastic season 2, and potentially more too, because I really hope that they don't stop at season 2, because I'm enjoying this show so much. But this overall is why I think this show is such a masterpiece, and why again DC has nailed on another fantastic animated show. If you haven't seen it, I honestly highly recommend this show. The voice casting is perfect. Every single character stands out and really brings the character to life. The animation style, of course, is just stunning to look at. Every episode is enjoyable. The pacing, the runtime, the story arc. And if you're a Superman fan, you're going to love all the Easter eggs that is delivered out there. So I really highly recommend it. It truly is like a masterpiece when it comes to, again, DC Studios. If you have seen it, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Did you enjoy the show? What your thoughts are about the episode? What's your favorite episode? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you haven't seen the show, go watch it. Definitely go watch it, because you won't regret it. If you're a DC, if you're a Superman fan, you'll love this show. I 100% guarantee that. But that about wraps it up for this video here. Definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. And again, if you are new to the channel, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. I do these types of videos, do weekly entertainment news videos, going to be doing a Lego unboxing video pretty soon as well. So definitely consider hitting that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on that. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. This is YK Reviews. Peace.